This one's for all those of you that love boys volleyball and want to help us grow. We've got quite a bit of information to share tonight, and so we're going to get started here. And then we've got a lot of help. I'm John Kessel with USA Volleyball. Jeff Moser, the coordinator, manager, director, and everything of all things that are good for boys volleyball and men's volleyball is on tonight. He'll do most of the talk, and I'll be just kind of hosting and stuff. And then we've got some other neat people helping us out.
You can go to that second slide there, John.
Yeah, we're there. It takes a while for you guys to see it down the pipe, but so you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Keith Nannie. I'm the boys club director for DFW High Intensity Boys Volleyball out of the Dallas, Texas area.
Hi, I'm Randall Morris. I'm the 18s coach and been coaching boys here in Texas for about 6 years now.
And Randall, you're a little faint, so if you can maybe mic up a little bit.
All right, I'll do it, okay.
All right.
Is that better?
That is.
And last but not least, I'm Grant Baldwin. I am the 17s coach for High Intensity, and I'm also the director of marketing, and been with Keith here at High Intensity from the get-go and played for him back in the late 90s, as well as Randall did as well. So we've been together for a long time.
So what we're going
to... Well, you've already introduced me, so I don't have to introduce myself, right?
Yeah, but tell them who you are.
So I'm Jeff Moser. I'm the coordinator for boys and men's program development, which is kind of a unique position with USA Volleyball because I do quite a bit of work with club and outside club programming, which is kind of what grassroots does here. So should be a fun discussion.
Well, let's find out about everybody. So I'm going to launch the first poll. Just answer all that apply. You should take, just click away, and once we see about 90% of you have, quote, voted, we'll close the poll and see who we are on tonight, what we've been doing, at least in these questions that are up. So we've got about a third of you to have voted. We're halfway home. And we're close to 3/4 of the way there. Yeah, we got a pretty interesting group. We've got a lot of club directors on, you guys. That's good.
Good.
And we'll all be able to see who we are on this one. So we've sort of stopped at 3/4 of us. Oh, we're jumping up a little bit higher. No, this is not a test. We don't grade you for this. We just want to know who we're talking to. All right, well, we got as close as we're going to get, it looks like, so I'm going to close the poll so you can see who we are. And here it should be on your screen. So as you can see, we're 50, we're half and half club director and girls coach. A quarter of us also coach boys, so that gives you a sense, guys, that we're looking at guys and people that are going to be trying to help you get some stuff started, actually. And a lot of us are doing youth volleyball, which is great. I think we'll just leave that as it is for the poll. The other one we don't really need to do tonight, so I'm going to hide the poll, and we're going to get back to the screen and move it on to the next slide for you, Jeff. And you got your ground rules coming up.
Yeah, I just want to kind of establish some things when we start, and it's pretty good looking at the results of the poll, who we're talking with. So just so you know, a lot of the things we'll talk about will be real general information and a broad brush look from my point of view. From the high intensity guys, they're going to have a lot more a closer magnifying glass on some of these ideas and some of these things that work or don't work for them. Then there's a lot of theory. We think this is going to work, but boys are so small we don't really have a good idea of what works and what doesn't work. And so that's one thing. And what may work here may not work in other places. So, what's working on the East Coast may not work on the West Coast. Some of us are starting brand new programs. Others are starting, are trying to revive a program. So that we're going to look at this from several different places. So we do expect a lot of input. You can type your messages in or your questions in, and we'll respond to those as we get them. One way or the other, whether we respond right away or whether we decide it's something that's going to have a lot of discussion and we should put it off to the question and answer at the end. So your input and dialogue is expected, and there, any question is going to be a good question, because everybody who's built a program or is building a program is going to be in the same position or same spot. So let's get started. And if you've got questions, again, fire those off. The Dallas guys are going to kind of jump in when they feel like it, and they have something to add, and we'll push through this slideshow and then get on to some real discussions and questions and answers on things that people really want to talk about. So.
Yeah, and each of you have a question box that you can open up, and I see Floyd's already decided that boys rule and girls drool officially, so he found the question and answer box. But you just open up that question, and I'll either relay it right away because it applies to the slide and it's a good time, or else we do have, at the end of this, a nice chance to have a Q&A and an open discussion that way. So just open up that, type anything to that question box and we'll fire it out. So,
all right, on to the next slide. One of the big things, and Keith brought it up prior to the presentation starting, is it's really important to start young, and that may mean 5 years old to some people, it may mean 14s to others. But what I'm finding a lot is that the young guys really help develop an entire program. A lot of people get real excited about starting a boys club, and they jump in and say, hey, we really want a 17s or an 18s. And that's where we're going to go, and that's where we get all the recognition, and that's where we really see stuff happening. And really, you need to be starting at your 12s or younger to get a good, strong, solid program going, and get a feeder program going, and let your 17s and 18s grow as it goes. And one of the things that helps is making sure your environment of your club is where kids can have a good time. And whether that's teammates, being able to get along and adjust well to each other, or coaches supporting each other and giving each other high fives, or coaches supporting the players and what you've developed that way, or even what you're doing with your parents. Have you created an environment or a culture at your club that allows for involvement all the way around, that supports the athlete every way they can? And I know the guys in Dallas have done a lot of work on, and we talked a little bit about it, on hiring and getting the right staff in to work with their kids and creating that positive environment. I don't know if you guys want to add anything in here, or if we want to wait until later.
Actually, I just wanted to go back to starting with we started our club with 12s and 13s, and what we did was, I coach a high school team, and we took our varsity players and just let them play for somebody else, and we're willing to give up that group of kids and start with just the younger kids, and it's paid off. We're now up to 18 and unders. We have a team at every different age group, and that's what I try to sell anybody who's starting a new club, is to start with the younger kids, and yet they do have to have fun. We wanted it to be positive and fun, and with the younger kids, we don't even really talk too much about winning and that. We talk about building fundamentals, but also just having a great time together. And we work on team unity and team camaraderie probably more at the younger levels than well, of course we work on skill development, but most of it is just getting them hooked on the sport.
I think that's important, is that developing that culture, and where it's a place they want to go. Your program then sells itself, and your advertising and your recruiters are your players,
Right.
and they can recruit and get people a lot better than the rest of us can. So
I certainly hear what you're saying about the coaches. I'd just like to touch on that. And certainly, they're our most valuable commodity because they're ultimately going to deliver the product or service, so to speak, to the parents and the kids, and they'll probably be the single person that has the biggest influence on the kids' experience. And even though it is very important, that is also a point of difficulty just because the market is obviously less than the girls' market, so you've got to somehow find better coaches for less money, so to speak, and that certainly is an obstacle.
Well, yeah, Bill, we're gonna talk about that a little bit later. Go ahead.
Bill Hickey's has got a question that probably fits here. Maybe it's a little later. I don't know, but he writes, his main question is, how do I get the boys to become interested in even wanting to play, since many of them consider volleyball a girls' sport and there's no feeder program like the girls have with the YMCA?
Yeah, we are going to touch on that a little bit later.
Okay.
So that'll come up because there's several things that are issues there and challenges that everybody's going to face.
Jeff, one thing I wanted to add here is, one thing I always try to impress upon our parents every year during our first parents meeting is kind of this one thing that Coach Nannie always told me when I first started coaching was that 99% of the kids you coach are not going to go on to play professional volleyball, but they are going to go on to be successful leaders of men and doctors and lawyers or whatever, and they're going to have to interact with people, and they're going to have to solve problems, and they're going to have to persevere. And so I always try to phrase what we offer to our parents more than just a game of volleyball as developing helping your kids go from boys to men, and we don't just tell these parents that we're teaching them volleyball skills. We're really teaching their kids how to conduct themselves out in public when we travel, and how to solve problems with kids their age, or how to relate to other adults. So it's more of a big picture type of pitch to parents than it is just the volleyball that we can add, because we compete on a national scale, and that's impressive, but at the same time there's not a whole lot of scholarships in boys volleyball that we can pitch to parents as being fruitful for the money that they're spending. So we got to find another way.
Yeah, and I think again that goes back to developing a culture that encourages that type of development and growth, and that's really, really important. So it's definitely something that people need to consider. I think we need to make sure that everybody listening is aware that you guys are the high intensity boys volleyball club, and that you guys are boys exclusive, which I really like. I think that's great. We've got an awful lot of clubs that do both, and I think they'll face some challenges that you guys might be able to avoid by being all boys. But I want everybody to make sure they understood that piece of your club as well. So
Scott's wanting to know, if just from you guys, is there boys high school volleyball in Texas, and if so, can you coach your high school kids during the club season?
We have 9 private schools, well actually 1 in Oklahoma and 8 in Texas, and those are the only sanctioned boys volleyball teams in the whole state of Texas. We're in what's called the Southwest Preparatory Conference. Now there are a few other high schools, public schools, and maybe some smaller private schools that have formed. They're not a school sport. They're called club teams, and they're really not sanctioned by what's called the University Interscholastic League, which is the UIL, which governs pretty much all of our sports here in Texas. And no, we really can't. As a club or as a high school coach, you may only coach 1 player from your high school team on a club team, and that's due to our conference rules, and it makes it very difficult. That's why basically I am the director of the club and I don't coach a team, because I could only any team. I coach at Green Hill School, a private school here in Dallas, but any player of mine that wanted to play club, I can only coach one player. So if I took a team, it could not be comprised of any more than just one of my Green Hill players, and that just wouldn't make for a very good team. So no, we're not really allowed to coach our own players in the off season. So it makes it a little bit more difficult, especially to find coaches.
Well, and I think one of the things about your situation down there is the struggles you have to face because of that.
Right.
You don't have a lot of high school play. And something that I need to probably point out at this point is a lot of people want to start club, which is fantastic. But what we found is club will only attract a percentage of the actual players. So you want to create a bigger pool, which means going out and really working with your other organizations, and that would include schools and that, to get a lot of boys playing, not necessarily members of clubs, because that'll come later on. But we need to build a pool. So when we do have club people interested in doing boys volleyball, they might want to consider looking at donating some of their services and expertise at some of these affiliate organizations. So John, let's go to that next slide.
And as I do that, Jeff, Will Hickey wants to know, do these rules include the high school intramural programs that you can't work with as well, or is it just the players that are on your team?
It's well, we don't really have an intramural program, unfortunately. It would mostly just be the players that are on our team, I guess. But what we also have in our conference is any employee of the school cannot coach more than one athlete from that school. So say I wanted the girls volleyball coach to help out. She couldn't do it because she's an employee of our school. If I wanted the science teacher to get some kids to practice, he couldn't do it because he's a member of our school. So it's more the intramural program. I guess I think if they were just interested in like PE, physical education, volleyball, that also probably would be governed under our rules for the conference. I really, unfortunately, don't have a complete answer to that question.
Well, that's good to know. And Vanessa just is noting, Jeff and you guys, that in their state, her state, Virginia, the rule is you need to have a non-school teammates on the club team for the high school coach to coach that club team, but it's not nearly as limiting as one player as you guys are. And the average in the United States is that half the National Federation standard for just sport in many ways, including volleyball, is that half the team needs to be from another school or schools, but the other half could be from your school. And there are states like up in Northwest where the entire team can be from your school. Mm-hmm. That's the more liberal side, and then there's places like yours where it's certainly more tighter, but that's a state-by-state thing. So, hey, Jeff, get on with the other organizations concept.
Yeah, so one of the things I was talking about was, donating your services as an expert in the sport of volleyball to different organizations like the YMCA, Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts has a pretty strong volleyball interest. YMCA obviously is where it first started. Going to or getting connected with your PE teachers and going to the AFERD convention that is in your state. Every state has one, and AFERD is the organization of all the PE teachers. And offering your services, whether that's your services as a coach, hey, can I come in and help you out with your PE section during my prep time if I teach at the school, or can I get my high school kids that are already playing to come in and help assist with your volleyball session, or even can we do an after school program and potentially get some funding, because there's an awful lot of federal money out there for after school programs, where your PE teacher really is the catalyst for creating the program, but yet you and your players or assistant coaches, or even parents that might have some background in volleyball, are willing to go in and help out. Then there's the Parks and Rec, whether that's state or city or county, getting involved with them to do some programming. The Boys and Girls Club is a place where you can get some involvement and go in and help out and develop a larger pool. If you get a big Boys and Girls Club program going with 40, 50 boys playing, you're going to get one or two of those kids to want to be in club. They're going to get hooked, and they're going to decide they want to go. The NCVF, for those of you that don't know, is the National Collegiate Volleyball Federation, which is club college programs. And there's an awful lot of colleges around the country that have club men's programs. And contacting those guys and seeing if you can get some of those players, whether they need community service time for their college or whether they just be interested in donating time as coaches, they're an inexpensive way to find some coaches sometime that have a love for volleyball and may or may not have come from a program when they were growing up. I find a lot of guys that didn't play in high school are very interested in trying to help promote. They may not be the greatest coaches, but they want to promote the boys' programs at junior high and high school levels because they never had the opportunity. The guys that did have the opportunity tend to have a lot more experience, but they're the same way. They want to see boys volleyball programs grow. So your local colleges, there's a great place to go and see if you can find some inexpensive coaches that might be able to work with any of these programs, a YMCA program, a Boys and Girls program, or your club. But obviously your club, you're going to want to make sure they meet all the criteria you need to have them going with you, or working with you. So let's
Floyd
look at
notes athletes in action, Jeff.
And Athletes in Action is a great place as well to access a whole bunch of very quality coaches. That would be a great place. In fact, that's a great affiliate organization to add into that group. Would be Athletes in Action, and you get some skilled players that can help out too. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit too. So let's look at let's do a little quick comparison right now. Whoa. Okay, let's keep going in that slide. That came up first, and it should have been last. So we're looking at, that's going to be really hard to see now. We're looking at what like we said earlier, it's typically considered a girls' sport, and this is going to be almost impossible to see with this big dollar sign in there, unfortunately.
Kind of like boys volleyball.
Yeah, exactly. Well, bring up the boys volleyball stuff, and I'll talk our way through it. The boys volleyball, if you could see it, actually has 49,000 players participating. Where if you see the girls, they obviously have 405 girls participating. 49 states sanction a championship for the girls. On the guys' side, we've got considerably less schools that are actually sanctioning, and that can be that's one of the things that I work on all the time. We really only have 15 states that have a sanctioned championship. It's the third most popular sport for girls. It's the 16th most popular sport for boys. But what's really interesting is to look at the results with the Women's Olympics results. They've got a silver, a bronze, and a silver, where the men have 3 golds and a bronze. Now, what this does to the international world, just to let everybody know, is it drives them absolutely nuts, because they look at the United States and they say you have no boys feeder program, you have very few NCAA teams playing, but yet you're one of the more successful Olympic level and international level teams in the world. And how do you do that? And it is something that baffles other countries, and it baffles us. And
no, it doesn't.
There's some that, well, I mean, our coaching is what really does it. Our training process, the coaching, the NCAA uses rules that align themselves directly with international rules, so our men's players are able to go out and play immediately on international programs without any adjustment. But the big thing, and the reason you're seeing a dollar sign there is, and as brought up earlier, is there is several financial advantages for the girls. One being, they do have a lot more scholarship opportunity, which drives an awful lot of the program development. There's another financial concern with facilities. If you're renting facilities, well, even if you own facilities, they're worth X number of dollars per hour. And the girls are willing to pay that price, where the guys, clubs tend to stay away from programming for boys because they're not willing to pay the same price. So if I've got limited facilities and limited amounts of time, I battle with whether or not I can let the boys take that court time when I could be renting it on to girls programs. And so there's some financial walls that we all have to go through. However, we'll talk a little bit later on, there are some advantages for facilities for if they decide they want to add some boys programming. So one of the things that happens with boys, if we go on to the next slide there, John, is
to let the people know this. There's a kind of an interesting picture in the lower right corner. These boys, young as you can see, and tall and older, are at a high school playing on asphalt and playing over a chain link fence. And it's one of my favorite photos because that is Karch Karai's alma mater in Santa Barbara. And, you know, in order for those boys to play, that's one of their options that they've chosen to do during their lunch hour is play 4-on-4 over the chain link fence.
Yeah, I think that's great. So one of the things that happens with boys that we all know is they have lots of different options, and we need to make sure that we're sharing the athletes, that we're not competing necessarily with other sports for athletes, but working with them to explain, hey, this is a great way for your athlete to cross train, and by getting them on a volleyball court, you know, it's going to improve their athlete. What we'll find in the long run is the guys will get hooked on volleyball, and we eventually recruit some athletes from these other sports that may not have gone there in the past. So we really need to look at these as potential resources rather than competition for athletes, and try to work with other coaches to say, hey, listen, we can really help out your athletes and your programs. So that's something to consider as well. We can go on the next one there, John. And make sure, you know, one of the things when we're programming, and I talked about it with the YMCAs and the affiliate organizations, is we don't just need to be targeting, you know, USA Volleyball Club programming. We need to make sure we're expanding the pool and involving more people. And here's a shot of our national team playing with folks that probably are not members of a USAV club and playing an adaptive form of volleyball with this group. And that outreach into the community really helps expand awareness for boys volleyball, that it's out there, that it's something that's a viable sport in a community. And the more and more you can get out and help with Special Olympics or help with a disabled program or help with a Boys and Girls Club program or get a high school team started in a local school or get a high school league started or develop a middle school program that feeds into a high school program, the more you can do that, the more exposure that boys and men's volleyball gets in your community, the better it is all the way around. And again, like Grant said, you know, you've got a culture you want to build, and that's a great way to help build it. You also have to give the guys an opportunity to get involved with volleyball at an inexpensive level, because they do have other choices. They can go play other club sports. And if you try right off the bat when you're starting to build a boys program to charge the same amount that you may be charging on the girls' side of the sport through the same club, you're going to have a very hard time getting some guys to join. And they may shy away because for that same price I can be involved in 3 sports rather than just 1. And so think of some inexpensive ways to get some boys involved first. And I always like to say you hook them first and then we reel them in. So hook them first with events that are easy for them to get involved with, inexpensive for them. Grass courts, do outdoor things so you're not renting facilities, 4-on-4, and we'll talk about some other options for programming in a little bit, where you can get some boys involved for pretty inexpensive cost.
Jeff and you guys, Keith, everybody, Brian's got a question. Is there a list of cross-training reasons to give other coaches? My basketball coach says all the right things, but really has no idea how his players can improve with volleyball and basketball's off-season.
Yeah, see, the great thing with basketball, and there is some stuff we can get you on cross-training and how it will help that we picked up from the U.S. Olympic Committee, because we went to them a couple of years ago and said, hey, can you get us some information on cross-training and the benefits? Now, there is also the group that believes in specialization at the same time. So there's always, you're going to run into a battle between those two groups. I'm a cross-training person and think it's pretty darn important. And with basketball, when you look at the number of jumps a guy gets in a practice for volleyball versus a basketball practice, the plyometric training alone should be a selling point for a basketball coach. And that's something they really need to, even if they come and sit in on a half an hour practice, they're going to realize it pretty darn fast. And then all the other attributes of a team sport that and playing with some different players than they play with during their basketball season certainly makes for a more well-rounded and athletic student. So there is some information we can get to you. So if Floyd would like.
Floyd notes that our sport is one of the few sports you can play with decent players in a co-ed way, in a competitive way. Do you guys do that down there in Dallas at all? Are you playing with your high school team at any point in time, the girls' team or anything?
We, as a matter of fact, we do quite a bit of co-ed stuff at the middle school level. 7th and 8th graders do a little bit of that. The hardest thing that we find about when our high school boys try to work out with the girls, it's the net height and just we're limited on time, and so when the boys train on a women's height net or the girls train on a men's net, it's not the best use of the time. However, we encourage over the summer for them to play in sand leagues together, and but more formalized co-ed stuff we do with the middle school quite a bit because the net height is the same, and it's a great way to get boys and girls kind of having some fun. As a matter of fact, in our club, since we don't have very many boys tournaments in general, at the 13s and 12s level and the 14s sometimes, we actually play in girls tournaments. So yeah, we try to do a lot of the co-ed stuff at the middle school level, and then when they get older, we don't do as much co-ed. But over the summers and on free play and open gyms that we have at some of the churches and rec centers around here, we encourage the co-ed side of it.
Well, if you ask me what my favorite way outside of just regular six-man to play is, I'd go with reverse co-ed in a heartbeat, because it is, it's just so great to play with really good players on a reverse co-ed net, and it makes it even more fair. So I think we should probably do some more of that to get some more boys playing.
Yeah, I think they would enjoy hanging out with the girls as well.
Yes. John Aroni notes, Jeff and everybody, that he landed a big-time basketball player whose dad would not let him play by quoting Wilt Chamberlain's autobiography. And in there are some great quotes for those basketball player dads that are coaches that are not thinking it's a good thing. Wilt's very complimentary about volleyball.
We had a similar player in Chicago, and the Loyola coaches gave the parents tickets to one of the matches, the men's collegiate matches. and this parent was very against their basketball son playing volleyball, and he went to one Loyola match and became the biggest fan for Loyola and turned his kid into a great volleyball player. So, just seeing men's volleyball, his whole thing was it was a girls' sport, so he didn't want his son involved. So yeah, I think once you get some of these kids, they're going to go. So one of the things you got to do is make sure you make it convenient, and to start. And geographical considerations are really important. Don't try flying all over the country. Don't go all over the place. That's not going to help you out. Think locally, play inexpensively, get leagues going in your local area first that you can then expand on later on. So stay away from thinking you want to travel. It really increases, well, obviously you all know this, it really increases the cost when you start looking at these trips all over the country to play in big events. Now, sure, it's kind of cool to get in one or two of them, and that may be something special you want to do, but as you're developing program, build the program first local, and start with 3 or 4 teams within an easy distance of each other. And that's just getting some people that are excited about boys volleyball to go in and find the guys, because they're there, they're around, and all you have to do is say, hey, we're going to start boys volleyball, and they come out of it.
And Floyd notes, here in Ohio, for the first time in the Ohio Valley region, we included girls in our tournament last year. The girls kicked everybody's butts, and everybody had a great time. So at that 14 and under level, that Keith and Grant and Randall are talking about, the net height is the same, and so that's another reason you've got that co-ed going, obviously, at the middle school level.
Oh, for sure. And go on to the next slide there, John, and it's the biggest thing, with boys is get them hitting. That's, when they walk into the gym the first time, and here's Ryan, and John, was this kid a first-timer? You were there, right?
This is actually a photograph of his first spike of his life, having seen Ryan Millar, the setter, who really couldn't believe when I said, no, you're not going to do it this way. We're going to hit first with the overhead pass is the way they'll deliver it to you, and you're going to set them, and then they're going to hit. And so Ryan and I demonstrated it, and then this boy stepped up, and these other girls were waiting, and Ryan threw him the ball, and the kid overhead passed it back to Ryan, and Ryan set him, and that's the picture I took at that moment of his first spike.
So you can see they made some adjustments. The net's lower. There's going to be a high success rate. But once the guys start hitting, they're guys. They got to hit. That's the hook. Now the skills that they really need to refine, you can add in as you go. But get the kids hooked first and make sure they're having a good time first. So I mean, it's so important to make sure that we hook them, and then they're going to want to come back. I mean, it's the great sport. It sells itself.
I mean, I'm going to tell you guys, this is a true story on the beach with the AVP. Several years ago, we did a clinic in Manhattan Beach, which is, hey, this is a big-time volleyball land, and the junior lifeguards were the ones that were invited out to train with the AVP pros, and I was there helping them. And the pros made them do sprints and warm up and work out in the sand. And when they were finally done, after about a half hour of that, they passed balls, and then they said, "Come back tomorrow." And what happened was that 30 out of the 60 came back, and it really kind of bummed me out. So when we went down to Hermosa Beach the next weekend, I said, "Can I do the junior lifeguard training?" And they said fine, because they were pretty busy as it is. And I had them hit first, jump serve second, and play doubles, what's called speedball version, so you don't have to run all the way across the court to the other side. Speedball in groups of 4 on each side, playing doubles, and said, "Come back tomorrow." And 120 kids came back the next day. And, when you walk into an elementary school or a junior high, you say, "Hi, I'm a volleyball teacher or coach, and let's hit. That's the next words that should be practically out of your mouth, with an overhead pass being the way they give you the ball so that you pass, set, and hit. Not even off a throw. I mean, you can set them and they can hit, just like you see in this photo.
Yeah, I think that's the best method. So, but number one, and this is the next slide. Guys are going to have fun. They're going to find ways to make fun, and that's what guys do. But what do they really want? They really want to play. They want the competition. Guys feed off from it. It's what motivates them to be athletes. And so we need to give them somewhere to play. We need to give them programming to play. And whether that's high school, middle school, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, or USA Volleyball Club, we need to create programs where they can play, and as often as possible where they can play against other boys' teams. And you talk to, we still have players out there where the only place the guys are playing against other guys is when they're playing men's programs, which is a viable opportunity as well. But as we grow, if we grow in the concept of 3 or 4 boys teams in the same region or geographical area, it will start to spread. And those guys will play against each other, and their friends will come in, and the neighboring school's going to want to get involved, or the neighboring club's going to want to have a boys program. And the more they see boys playing, the more they get hooked. And that's one of the important things as well, is seeing those, increasing the awareness of boys volleyball. So, go on to the next slide here, John. So give them opportunities to play, and we've already said, co-ed is great. Get them on the sand, get them around bikinis where they're playing, the girls are playing on the court next to the guys. It's a natural draw for guys. Creating courts, if you look in the upper right-hand corner there, those are courts that John helped create up in Alaska to just, hey, how do we create all these massive numbers of courts to let kids play volleyball? So it doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be anything that you've spent a lot of money on. It has to give them an opportunity to play. One of the things I've talked with some folks in Hawaii was doing Tuesday or Thursday night pickup games and putting grass courts out next to the busiest road they can find where everything's safe, but people will see guys playing volleyball, and you'll get guys wandering in because they know if I come down there on a Thursday night, I'm going to play some volleyball. It's all pickup, and we're going to rotate in or however they want to set it up. You let the kids make those rules, but you give them the opportunity, inexpensive opportunity to play by having the grass courts available or having sand courts available or creating courts like they did there in Alaska, where you give them a place to play. And that's the biggest thing.
We put up 20 doubles courts for a group of 80 boys and girls, and you can see that our lines are simply the way I grew up, which is shoes and socks and no lines. And we did the same thing in Puerto Rico. One of the videos that's on the youth volleyball part of the blog that is recent on one of the blogs I wrote is a 45-minute how Puerto Rico grows boys and girls volleyball. And even though it's in Spanish, it's got some great examples. And just FYI, the kid that's hitting right side in the mother load actually is the tournament is that he's playing up in Aspen, Colorado, is Mitch Beal, Doug Beal's son, who is going to George Mason next year. But he happens to love volleyball a lot too. Imagine that.
Yeah. So we'll go on to the next one. So one of the things you can do is expose girls players and girls fans and girls parents to more and more boys play. So get men's teams to get involved, even if it's a sitting team, at a girls tournament. Get this picture that just came up. That's at that's at Crossroads in Denver. The boys playing. There's a boys division. They set aside a couple of courts. Talk to the tournament directors. and say, hey, can we set aside some courts? The girls will watch boys play volleyball. They get hooked on it. And if you really, really want to blow their socks away, is you do what Crossroads did. Go on to that next picture, John. And they hooked up with, this is Graceland University and Johnson & Wales University, men's varsity programs in their conference championships at Crossroads. And people were begging for more. It has to be a center court. You have to have enough room for everybody to come around because it's just packed. And they love to see the difference between men's collegiate volleyball and what they've been watching for several years on the girls' side. So just getting this out in front of all those fans was a huge boost for boys volleyball in Colorado, because people then realized, hey, it's out there, it's a viable sport, it's something my kid can do, it's something my boyfriend can do, it's something my younger brother can do. But one of the biggest things, go to that next slide, the biggest things that you need to do is make sure that you provide information that you can give them when these boys are playing in front of groups. Whether it's groups of girls, whether it's pickup games, we've created a brochure that we'll customize. With this one that you see now is customized for the Conference Carolina. I'm sorry, for Carolina region, and it's got pictures from the Carolina region. They send them into us. We customize it. We'll change the wording if they want wording changed. But the most important thing is on the right-hand side there. Click it one more time, John. Is this right here? Where can I play? And how do I contact them? So we've included their website and their phone number and the name of the club. And those are the clubs that have boys programs. So a kid can say, okay, I live near such and such. I'm going to call these guys up, or I'm going to go on the website and check out that club. I've got something in my hand when I leave that says where I can go play. And a kind of a cool website that you might want to check out is called vistaprint.com. And Vistaprint will give you 250 free business cards. You go in, you pick from about a dozen choices, you put whatever information you want on it, and those are business cards that they'll send you for free, for nothing. You can put your club information on there, you can put the times that you practice, you can put when tryouts are, whatever you want, but something you can hand out to the kid or a parent or a girl that says, my boyfriend would love this, my younger brother would love this, he wants to know where to play, so that at all these events you have something to give them where they can take it home and now know where to go and play volleyball. So, we'll do these brochures for anybody that wants to have them done. You just contact me and we'll customize them for you and send them off to you. Again, we just send you the PDF. We let you guys print them, but it's a great way. Once you've decided, hey, we're going to do a boys program, get boys playing in front of other groups of people so you increase awareness of boys volleyball and have something. It can't just be a sign. It can't just be a banner. It has to be something that you can put in their hand where they can go home. A sign-up sheet for an open gym night is ideal, especially if it's within a couple of days from the event where you hand it out, because they're going to have it in their hand and they're going to go home and sign up right then, because this looks cool and I want to do it. So whether you're doing an assembly for a school, that's a great time to have information available that you can hand to the kid and say, hey, we're starting a middle school program next week. So there's some groups out there you may not be aware of that can help you out when you're deciding you want to do a boys volleyball program. And a lot of people neglect to connect them all together. So you've got to look at your region and get your regional office involved so they're aware of what you're trying to do. You want to contact other clubs in the area and let them know, hey, we're going to try to start a boys program. Can you consider it as well, because that gives you more players to play against. Contact your local Parks and Rec department. Contact facility owners that may have empty courts when the girls aren't so active, that they want to fill, and they're willing to do it at a reduced rate. So putting a boys program in there would be ideal. contacting your college club programs that we talked about in the past, so that that you have players that are aware at that level that they can they can come and help out and run programs. Contact our office and ask if there's people working on their Cat 3 projects, and would they be willing to develop for no cost a boys program for you, whether it's a rec program, a club program, whatever you want. Will they come in and do that as their project? They're required to do a project anyhow. Take advantage of them and see if you can use them. Go after Dig for Kids. It's a great organization that can help you out in developing a program for recreation programs in your community. This is something that just came to us this year. We were not aware that it was even out there, and I think the economy has a lot to do with it, is contact and find out if your community has a local sports commission, a commission that oversees bringing sporting events to your town or your city. And what we found is that there's there's a huge desire to develop youth programming for sport and community outreach for the organization, that they're willing to find facilities or help you with cost if you want to run a tournament, or help you in any way they can if you're developing a local community sports program for you. And in the past, we've always looked at them as the ones that run the hotels and help set up the large events. Now we're hearing from them that they're willing to work on small events, do outreach in their community, and help local programs start new sports programs for kids. And boys volleyball is something that you can sell to them very easily, and they have access to facilities. So look at some of these things that you may not have looked at in the past as potential partners to work with, to see if you can do some more programming of boys volleyball in your community.
Keith, Randall, or Grant, you guys have anything to add in this that's been working down in Texas? I know that in San Antonio there's a few pockets of what we call Olympic development programs, community Olympic development programming. So in San Antonio they do some, and I know that we're doing it in Missouri to do boys volleyball on top of it. But what about what's working in Texas?
Well, unfortunately, we don't have too many community opportunities like that. However, I do want to go back to the increase awareness through they have the Lone Star Girls qualifier in Dallas.
Yeah, yeah.
And they actually have devoted 2 to 3, actually I think it was 4 courts last year to boys volleyball. They had a 16 and under division and an 18 and under division. And it's exactly like you said. The courts were filled with spectators 4 or 5 rows deep. It reminded me of watching some of the Puerto Rican teams at nationals, where their fans are just 3 and 4 rows deep. And so it was great to see all the girls and their parents and little brothers watching. And we did have some business cards, and we do hand out something. All of our coaches have a stack of business cards, and as soon as a parent or a kid or a sister or a brother, whatever, asks about boys volleyball, we hand them a card. And believe it or not, we were able to get a bunch of new recruits for our club season this year based on what they saw last year at the Lone Star qualifier. So we're hoping that each year it just the qualifier gets bigger. I mean, well, the girls qualifier is always going to be a qualifier, but to where more teams from outside of just our area will come to that. And certainly it wouldn't be classified as a qualifier, but it would be a great showcase for boys volleyball. And I think that's one of the things is we do have to attract the girls who are already playing, and their parents and their families and their friends. And that qualifier, or that Lone Star tournament, was just great for our, I guess, public relations.
Yeah, and that's something we'll mention here a little bit on some of the potential recruiting. Is we've got a bunch of girls playing volleyball. They love the sport, and there's nothing they'd like to see more than a bunch of guys playing with them. So, one of the things on this next slide that I want to get into is we've exposed the girls to boys playing. we need to also take the guys that are playing and expose them to elite men's volleyball. And, you know, this kid's never going to forget holding a Beijing, Tom Hoff's Beijing gold medal in his hand. There's no way. And that's a great catalyst for that kid and a goal-setting opportunity. The photo on the right-hand side is a photo from the World League. And what we started last year was running boys clinics in the same city at the same time as the World League. And that red circle is our group of the kids that were in that clinic, and going to the World League event is part of the clinic experience. And they also get to sit down one-on-one with the players and talk with them and ask them questions. We do feed them some questions because some of them get a little shell shock or starstruck, I should say, when they see when they're around some of these players, because they're already playing. They know who these guys are. But it was an amazing experience. I don't think any of the skill sessions we did had even shown a light on the opportunity they had when they had to sit down with the national team guys and talk with them. We put them in a private area, and it's just the national guys and the guys from the clinic. So offering opportunities for regular players, club players, to be able to sit down with the national team is a major initiative of ours, and something we're hoping to expand on in the future. The other thing you can get them in front of is find out where your NAIA tournament is at. This year it's going to be St. Ambrose University in Iowa will be hosting the NAIA championships. The Moulton Division III championship tournament will be hosted the same weekend in April, April 15th in Rochester, New York at Nazareth College. And it'll be the final year for that tournament because you may or may not be aware the NCAA will be adding the first new national championship tournament in the NCAA since 1985, and that will be a men's Division III volleyball national championship. So this will be the final year for this Moulton tournament, and it will be taken over by the NCAA. And speaking of that, is get them to the NCAA tournament if you can. Penn State is hosting it this year in May. And we're going to be doing a massive clinic for boys. At the same time, we're going to be doing a coaches clinic, which is open to all coaches, not just boys coaches, but any coach that wants to come in. The national team coaches will be part of that. We'll have our national cadre coaches as part of that program. And then we'll be doing a clinic for parents to help them become better supporters of their athletes and their players, and a clinic for boys volleyball instructors or youth volleyball instructors, PE teachers, club directors, boys and girls clubs, anybody who wants to come in and say, hey, we want to help, or we want to build our programming for youth volleyball, not necessarily just boys, but all youth volleyball, co-ed, and we're going to do that all at the same time at Penn State University. And we have the advantage this year, the national team will be actually practicing at Penn State during that week. So we'll be using the national team players as part of those clinics. So it's another great opportunity for guys to be around elite players. So we push people, if you're in the Pennsylvania area, even if you're not, it's a great opportunity for a road trip where you're going to see you're going to see 4 top-end NCAA teams playing against each other in the tournament. You're going to see a scrimmage between the men's national team on a Friday in between those NCAA matches, and you're going to be able to have an opportunity to go to an awesome clinic, which it looks like it's going to be the largest clinic USA Volleyball's ever put on. So that's a great opportunity. The NCVF tournament. What?
Jeff will be sending by email the information on that to everybody that's attending tonight.
Yeah. And the NCVF, they host tournaments at the colleges. So call a university that's near you. Ask them if they've got a men's club program. Get your team over there to watch a couple of those. There's depending on where you're at, there's pretty drastic difference between a lot of the Division I college varsity programs and a club program. However, not in all cases. If you're near a large, you're in the Big Ten area, any one of those universities in the Big Ten has a very, very talented men's club program. And you'd be hard-pressed to tell the difference between a club program at their school and a Division II varsity program. So it's worth getting your guys over there to see some men's volleyball and exposing them, making them more aware of what the next step might be for them.
Hey, Jeff, I just wanted to add some things on increasing awareness. One point you brought up about having men's teams at the at boys events, I kind of got really excited about that because I've never even thought about that idea. But I think I'm going to go ahead and try and make that happen with our Lone Star event this year because not only will it be great for our boys, but certainly the girls and the parents and there's so many local teams they'll just flock to that type of event.
It's really cool.
Yeah, and I'm really excited. I mean, we've got so many great schools around here with club programs like UT, A&M, and Baylor all have great club programs. So, and we've got access to those people. So we're certainly going to work on that. The other thing I wanted to bring up is having a website that's useful and functional. And I had that issue come up when I first started, when we started the club, which is trying to find a website and have a useful tool for our parents to use. And I know that there's so many resources out there because I do this professionally, building websites and doing digital marketing and stuff like that. But some places for people to start would be if you have a Mac, you've got a program called iWeb. You can build a cheap website there and buy a domain name and just get up and going. Also, I've seen people using Google. Google has an application called Google Sites, and you can go and build your own website. And then, some simple functional search engine optimization things, because we've got a lot of kids that are just searching boys volleyball in Dallas and find us that way. We're increasing our awareness on search engines. Just a simple tool would be connect to other relevant volleyball sites. So I've done a lot of work with volleyball bloggers and other clubs to connect, to cross-link between those other sites, and that will certainly help your site to be more viewable to people searching for keywords like volleyball in your area. So there are some simple things for you to do. Just search engine optimization and try and optimize your website for volleyball.
Grant, what was the Google app again?
It's called Google Sites, S-I-T-E-S. It's just a simple app where you can go. There's a new club in Oklahoma that actually, I don't know the guys well, but I know they use Google Sites, and they use a lot of the information that, the content that we have on our website to kind of populate theirs. And I guess that's the highest form of flattery is people copying your ideas. But Google Sites is a great way to get your website up and going. And they have a lot of SEO tools on Google as well. So.
Well, and I think one of the important things there is, and this is something that I think everyone out there, if you're seriously saying, I want to do a boys program, we're going to offer boys at our club. And the boy goes to the home page of the club, and there's not a single boy's picture, and the home page is full of pink and flowers and girls with bells in their hair. It's a major turnoff right away. If you're seriously going to add a boys program, you need your home page to have above the fold, which means when you open it up, it's somewhere on the top part of your home page, something that indicates you offer boys, whether it's a picture or whether you have a big flashing banner on the side that says boys click here, and it takes them to a whole separate area of your website. I don't care what the rest of your website looks like, but that home page, if you're going to do boys and be serious about it, it has to have something immediate that says we offer something for boys.
Sure.
Otherwise, you're struggling.
Sure. And what I would add to that is there's tons of content out there. I mean, thankfully we've been around, Coach Nannie's been doing this for over 20 years, and we've got kids like, Garrett Dobbs and Alex Gooder that have been in the national championship. So we've got testimonials and videos from those kids. But, if you don't have content ready made for you like that, then go to YouTube. We actually, for a short time on our homepage, had the USA Olympic team from 2008's highlights, a highlight video that I found on YouTube as our homepage video. So you can see heavy hitting, you can see, you know, Lino Marshall jumping 50 inches kind of stuff, really exciting stuff that kids want to see and don't really realize is out there in terms of volleyball. You know, you don't want just boring pictures of kids passing volleyballs or whatever. You can go find some great content on YouTube.
Awesome.
And for that matter, social media. I mean, there's so many things you can do to create, you know, sites for yourself on Facebook and groups and that sort of thing. Kids these days, you know, want to be on social media, on Twitter and Facebook. So it's pretty easy to get yourself connected to your clients that way.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's go on to this next sample programming. One of the things that we want to, I'm typing a little message here, so there we go. All right. One of the things on programming is I'm going to go through some, and I'm going to do it relatively fast so we can get done and get into some question and answer. So if you have questions on it, definitely let me know. But do short recreational leagues, 6-week programs, whether it's for your middle school age, youth age, or high school age. And do them 6 weeks when you're first starting out. I'm not talking about existing programs that are trying to expand. I'm talking about brand new programs that really want to hook a bunch of kids right at one time. Short recreational leagues, get into your schools and see if your PE teachers can help arrange assemblies so that you can get the information out to the kids and have that information available right at the end of the assembly. And you'll pick up 4 teams worth of guys right away. Older players coaching the younger players, I can't stress that enough because of the impact it has on the older players. Those guys, their skill development, because obviously you're learning by teaching, is increased. And you're also building a mentor position for that kid, and you're building a fan base for your older kids because the younger kids are going to get to know them and want to hang out and watch them. So having older kids coach, having your high school kids coach a middle school program that's 6 weeks long, they have 1 practice a week. They might get together on Saturday and play a pickup match, and then at the end of the 6 weeks, you run a miniature tournament, and you call it the city championship, and you offer a trophy to the winning middle school team that goes to their middle school, whatever it might be. Keep it inexpensive. Charge the kids $40, give them a T-shirt, and you've got a trophy, and it's a great experience and a great way to hook kids at a younger age and get them going. Using kids to help recruit and promote is something, or girls to help recruit and promote. This is something we talked about earlier, but getting the girls to go out, and we're thinking about doing an incentive here from the national office nationwide, where the incentive is going to our USA members that are juniors on who can get more boys to join USA Volleyball and have a substantial prize as the prize. It's not going to happen this year, but we're in the planning stages for next year, so that we're using our athletes that are already playing volleyball, that already love the sport, and their parents to go out and be our recruiters and do all the work for us, rather than having the club directors and club coaches spend all this time and energy when the kids have access to each other, and let them become our recruiters. Doing introductory tournaments, whether it's Friday nights where you've got 6 teams showing up at a gym, you've got 2 courts set up, you play 3 matches, crossover, and you're out of there in a couple of hours. The guys, in order to hook them right away, you need to make it short and sweet. They don't necessarily want to go to a 2-day tournament the first time they're starting out in volleyball. They may want to play volleyball in the morning and then go play their basketball in the afternoon. So make it short, make it sweet, get them in there, let them compete, let them have fun, let them learn what skills they need to work on, and then get them out of it. Instead of dragging it out where now it's becoming did I really want to commit to a 10-hour day and sit in the gym all day to play in this huge tournament? So,
You know, Jeff,
what's that?
one of the things we did with Front Range that I think is an idea for everybody listening tonight is we did a introductory type tournament thing, but more in what we call a pro-am. And the pro-am meant that each of the kids who had already been playing, whether they're 12, 14, or 16, they were the pros, and we played fours, not sixes, and we brought in, each player brought in an amateur who the intent was to bring in a really good basketball player or somebody. This was done in the spring. And it was a big success because as long as you've got two kids that kind of know how to play on the court, they can kind of cover, as you can imagine, for the two kids that can't. And then the two kids that couldn't, you know, were taller and usually often stronger athletes, and they started to catch on. So it's called a pro-am tournament, and it really works out well. I strongly suggest it.
And you could do that at both the middle school and the high school level. You know, so it's great. I've been pushing that the last several months, and people have really been getting into it. In fact, I think St. Ambrose University during the NAIA tournament is offering a pro-am tournament on the same weekend to try to get more people to come to their event, but to also introduce more boys to boys volleyball by having the girls bring the boys with them to the tournament. So that they're going to be able to play with the girls, and then they're going to be able to go watch a collegiate national championship event, which will be huge. And then again, the last thing here is, which I keep saying, is play local and then grow from there, because that seems to be working. Is to grow in pockets rather than scattering programs throughout a state. So let's go on to the next one here real quick, John. Some of the challenges, obviously, there's financial challenges with all clubs. Can we afford to do a boys program? How do we go about setting it up? How do we recruit boys from other sports? Our staffing, I mean, that's going to be a challenge, and it's something, the Grant mentioned earlier, is going after the right staff, getting people that can coach boys. A lot of your girls coaches will, okay, I'll give it a shot, and you won't get them back as girl coaches. Because all of a sudden they find out they really like coaching guys. But I would say that getting somebody that's dedicated to just growing your boys program is probably key for any club that's thinking of doing boys programming, is get someone who's dedicated and get somebody who's right for the job, that can work well with guys. Funding's always going to be an issue. How do we raise money? How do we keep it going? Guys will not pay necessarily what girls will. They will eventually. As you're starting a program, they tend to to shy away. If you charge them too much. If you drop the rates at first, once they're hooked and once they see they can go and compete, then you're going to see them being willing to pay the same amount as the girls do. So, and then obviously facilities. Do you have a club that's sitting empty when the girls aren't in there? That might be a good time to be programming for your boys, is when that facility's sitting empty and it's inexpensive. So, USA Volleyball, we have some incentives, financial incentives. We offer grants to colleges. It's worked out really well, obviously, with Division III getting their own national championship in 2012. We have high school grant programs. It's now a national level grant program, so it's competitive for high schools or middle schools that are starting programs. We have a new grant that just started, the Ludus Tours Sports Development Grant. That's for developing programming for 14 years old and younger. So if you're interested in developing younger programming and you need some cash, that's a good grant to consider. We offer a discount incentive for the Boys Junior National Championships. It's a 50% off for 12 and unders and 13 and under teams if they've never competed in that tournament before. So a 12 team can't get the discount this year and then try to get one again next year with the same group of kids. We're looking at growing membership, so we'll offer a 50% discount. So if you're starting a 12s program, that might be something to think about. We had a coach walk up to me last year, 2 years ago, at the national championships and said, you know, I brought my 12s team. I've never brought a 12s team to nationals, and I was a little nervous about it because they're having a blast. Of course, they're getting pounded by the Puerto Ricans, but they're having a blast, and my phone won't stop ringing because all their friends say they want to join volleyball and they want to start playing because they're hearing how much fun their friends are having at this championship. And again, 12s and 13s at the boys junior nationals are playing at the same time as 18s, which is ideal because now they're looking up going, I want to be that kid. I want to be that guy. They're seeing the 18s playing at the highest level in the tournament, and they're at the lowest level. So it's really a great incentive for them to continue working at it. Looking at bringing somebody into your club that'll go out in the community and beat the bushes, you know, outreaching and trying to develop programming that may not necessarily be directly affiliated with your club, you still got to build a pool of boys volleyball players somewhere. And so you need to get somebody who's dedicated to do that. And they have to be almost fanatical in order for it to be really successful. They have to really, really want to do it. And I usually tend to avoid working with parents of older kids simply because when the kid graduates from high school, typically you lose the parent. So I try to find somebody, you know, like a college student or somebody working on their CAP program that's really into volleyball, may not even have kids playing anymore, and they're sold that boys volleyball is the greatest thing on the planet, and they want to do whatever they can to grow it. That's the kind of person you want to go out beating the bushes and working with your other community organizations. So, and then the you know, the recruitment program project is what I already mentioned about possibly getting the girls to go out and do all our recruiting for us, and providing them with some type of incentive in order to do that. And I shouldn't say girls, anyone who's currently playing USA volleyball to go out and get more members. Hopefully you'll see something in the next few months for my office or for my desk that says, you know, here's what the program is and here's what you're going to win, and let's have a huge contest that's nationwide and get some more people playing.
You guys at High Intensity, do you guys have any financial incentives at all that have worked?
For recruiting?
For everything.
For growth.
Yeah, basically what we do, well, we're actually starting some fundraising stuff this year, but we're also, we don't, the 12s and 13s have a different limited financial payment scale. And that's, we started with the younger kids paying a little bit less, and then the older kids obviously pay a little bit more. We've actually increased, well, the most important thing we did was we started small and didn't charge very much to begin with. As we've grown, of course, we do more travel, we do more practice time, more facilities that we have to rent. So as the kids get older, they of course are more used to what it takes. So if we charge the younger kids just a little bit, just enough for us to get by and for us to fulfill our financial obligations, and then as they get older, they pay a little bit more. They bought into it a little bit more. They understand a little bit more. But to hook them, we don't charge as much for the younger kids.
In terms of fundraising, you know, Coach Nannie gets a lot of inquiries because he's a teacher and has a volleyball program, but if you don't know where to start, a lot of the fundraising stuff that football coaches and band directors do is applicable to you, and a lot of the people that go through them are the same people that can set you up. We're starting a program to sell, like, for $25, you know, the kids can sell these coupon books or gift certificates to gift cards to local restaurants and things like that. So there are lots of fundraising opportunities out there. Just talk to football coaches and band directors. They're used to doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and we did a webinar on funding your club that'll be up on the you know, on the USAV website here pretty shortly for you guys to at your leisure to, you know, listen into. Hey, we've got just about officially 10 minutes to get into the Q&A side of things, and I've got a list of questions that I get to share with you guys to answer, you know, especially down there in Dallas since you're doing it. First, the outside of Bill Hickey asks, outside of USA Volleyball, there's a lot more liability without it being sanctioned or insured, and there's a risk. How do you do a cover your ass?
Well, we really don't do much outside of USA Volleyball. If we do, it's through a school, and the school has their own, insurance and their liability and stuff like that. But we really do work within USA Volleyball. We have worked with the AAU, as a matter of fact, and they also have an insurance type thing. So we try to stay with organizations that are already established in that area. Just for our own benefit.
And I would say that one of the things you can definitely have is check with your region commissioner, and if you are taking a strong girls program and creating new boys, get in touch with your commissioner / the boys director, and if you don't ask, the answer will always be no. See if they can lower your costs for membership for your first year or for your 14 and unders. And for those of you that don't know, the USA in the youth blog that I was talking about, I have a whole couple paragraphs trying to help people know that the regions for 11 and under boys and girls, the cost for a membership is a maximum $15 for the year, full USAV coverage, and the average is $10 for a year. And that's for 11 and unders, not for the older kids, but that's another way to get started at a low cost.
Yeah, and if you team up with a Boys and Girls Club or a YMCA, you actually offer your services to them and let their programming cover the logistics of that insurance coverage. And that's why I like working with schools and going in and getting the PE teachers and the principals to buy into a 6-week program for their middle schools after school, because they like it because it's after school programming, and you get the benefit from the insurance because you run the program through the school.
Okay. Mark's got a question. Mark Jekyll, how much are tuition fees for boys clubs per year?
Well, I guess that would depend on what what tournaments you want to go to. For us, we do want to compete with our older kids in bigger tournaments, so we do travel. So our dues are increasing each year as we decide to add more and more tournaments. But I would say, you can go anywhere from $1,500 per year. But when we first started our club, we were running on the dues were only $800 for the whole year. So it just depends what you feel the kids will pay and what you can offer services to them for whatever you think would be would be good services for what they're paying. So, I've known some clubs that have tried to run on $300 or $400 for a whole season, but they don't really get much tournament experience or much game experience. So we actually raised our yearly tuition to about $2,000, but then we would add trips and stuff on top of that. This year we've gone up a little where our trips are included. So you're talking, depending for our 18 and under team, you're probably talking about $4,000, including maybe $4,500, including all their tournament trips as well as uniforms and stuff like that. Oh, maybe uniforms are a little bit separate.
All right, thanks. Brian asks, how many boys clubs and high school programs do you think will be needed for vendors to start selling more boys volleyball gear, jerseys, shoes, etc.? I think it's a big problem that it doesn't help the girls sport stereotype when there are tons of girly shirts but no boys stuff. Can USA Volleyball talk to these vendors, or have they tried?
That's actually, we've been kicking around the last couple of years just at the big tournaments and nationals, and it's something we'd like to get involved with. There's some logistical issues we have to deal with as far as sponsorship agreements and things like that. But you're absolutely right. It does continue to keep that stereotype alive by not offering stuff to the boys. So that's definitely something I'll make a note of it, and we'll continue to keep that conversation going when I'm working with sponsors. In fact, we've got one coming in tomorrow. We can probably have a chit chat with them and see what their opinion is on it too.
All right.
On how to solve that.
Vanessa is asking, do you see the length of the season be an issue to get boys willing to play? I know it's starting to become an issue with girls that want to play beach with the season going into July.
With the boys, you're running into, and it depends on what state you're from, because club being mostly in the spring, although maybe that's the issue. You're also stretching it out longer and longer. A lot of times it's detrimental because boys want to be in other sports and will do cross training, and will do want to participate in other sports. So sometimes you'll lose boys if the season's too long. But what we run into is high school season overlapping or falling right in the middle of boys club season, and that's something that each state and each region has to deal with, and they seem to be doing it fairly well. Hawaii is struggling with it right now because they just switched from a fall boys high school season to a spring, and in their state, their high school coaches don't coach club and refuse to allow their kids to participate in club during high school season. So they're having a little struggle right now, but we're sure they're going to work their way through it because the majority of the states that have boys high school have the same situation they have to deal with. So
Right,
I think,
Coach,
it'll be a problem.
Coach Hickey asks, for summer outdoor tournaments, especially grass, are there any good resources to help cover things like all the nets, maybe a template on the logistics necessary to coordinate the whole thing? I can answer part of that, Bill, just to let you know that on the website, underneath the grassroots button and underneath the coaches area and best practices, there are already set up Excel spreadsheets so that you just type in the names of the teams and boom, out comes the schedule. And there are a lot of other tournament organizing things in the guidebook, as well as material that Jeff can get you through the beach department. But most of it's up on the grassroots button already. The logistics are pretty simple. You just need water and the big challenge is the nets, because the nets are, for lack of a better term, 10 players to one court. It's not, the price difference can be much different. I'll tell you, Jimmy Peden has done some great stuff. He has quadrupled his membership, and he's doing it by, going outside as part of it with the doubles and other even triples opportunities in the summers, and then they're coming back inside because your membership carries until October 31st, so you could do a season even September or October without the kids from last year having to re-register, and the only kids you have to register then would be new kids who then have a full year of membership after that. So,
what's he doing for equipment then?
I'm sorry?
What's Jimmy doing for his nets equipment?
He has a region. He invested. He was the one that was trying to get the Spalding nets in advance, and he ended up just buying Parkinson, and they just share them and move them around, as well as the grass and rope nets. So the insurance and waivers needed, not if they're already members, Coach Hickey. The USA Volleyball website, usavolleyball.org, has a grassroots button to the far right, and when you pull that down, you see best practices, coaches, parents, players, posters, and all sorts of other information over there. The region will be getting at least 4 nets by probably the beginning of summer of 2011, each region, that they can use as they see fit. So you might want to be asking them or challenging them to loan those things to you for some boys' growth ideas. And we were just talking about that today in our budget meetings and stuff. So Kristen Hallberg asks, our 16-year-old son who's playing USA Volleyball Club wants to know if the USA men's team can hit the Mid-Atlantic area during their tours so their club teams can go see them, as well as other regions. Do you know where they're going for World League or anything?
I was hoping to find out today. They still haven't got it firmed up. The issue there is really sticky because you're talking about cities that have to fund those events, and there's the logistics behind where the World League goes is based on what weekends we're assigned by the FIVB to host the events, and then we have to go find cities that are willing to pick up a lot of the cost, almost the majority of the cost, and then they have to have that weekend open. So it'd be great to spread it around, and that's what I'd love to see. However, we're having some issues with just the logistics of making that happen. So, I mean, the best thing you can do is just keep your ears open for where and when, and you should hear in the next week or so when the World League is going to be going this year to get exposure to the national teams. And again, well, it depends on the weekend this year. There's one weekend we won't be running a clinic because it'll overlap with the boys junior nationals. But other than that, we'll be running clinics at the first two World League weekends. So that information should be released soon.
Floyd's asking, how do we get athletic directors to let us into the school to recruit boys to the sport? Catholic schools seem to let me in easily, but public schools not so much. You guys down there in Dallas got any ideas?
Yeah.
No, we're struggling.
The Catholic schools.
Yeah, we even struggle with the Catholic schools, as a matter of fact. No, we're fortunate because I coach at a private school, and our athletic director's son was one of the volleyball MVPs. So that helps. Our headmaster's son also was an MVP of volleyball here, and we have fortunately my high school program has a pretty good reputation, so we don't have much difficulty getting into the private schools. The public schools we can't even touch. They're just not. They just don't open their doors to us at all. So yeah. We go to rec centers and stuff like that rather than try to fight our way into the schools. We actually do community centers, rec centers, but word of mouth. That's really how we get our public school athletes.
I think one of the things is and I'm not sure. Again, this is one of the theories is to approach the school rather than, hey, we want to come in and give these guys an opportunity to play volleyball at our club. Is to approach the school and say, hey, we'd really like to come in and help your PE teacher with their volleyball unit and offer an after-school program for your students at your school, free of charge. And then you're free of, meaning you don't have to get paid. The kids may, if there's some fees in that, we'll charge them, or you convince them that, hey, we're going to charge the kids $40, but they're going to get their T-shirt, they're going to get medals at the end or whatever, and do a program which gets you in the door. And sometimes, possibly, the PE teachers may be the best way in, is to get contact with them and say, hey, we'd really like to come and run this program or help you with a program after school or whatever, and do it pro bono for a 6-week program. And that gets your foot in the door to where now you can get a little more information out to some guys. You're also able to pick and choose the guys that you're watching through the program, which you may want to see at your club. And you've offered the school a service that they don't currently have, and in return you eventually get to then market your program to those students. And it may or may not work. I don't know. I think it really depends on the school, the district, and the athletic directors and principals. And I think it's a case by case.
One thing I'd add to that is you gotta stay persistent, and you gotta have some patience with it, because I mean, Randall and I talk about this all the time is how frustrating it can get. But we thankfully have a bunch of guys that have played for Nannie before and really believe in what we're doing, and we're just persistent. Nannie's got relationships that he fosters, and I've got relationships that I foster, and Randall, and we're all just striving to do the best we can. But it's really a multi-pronged effort. We get a little bit of publicity at national events, we get a little publicity at local events, and we get a lot of publicity on our website, obviously, and we just keep trucking. It takes years, and it takes a lot of people, and it takes a lot of dedication, but it's really just a lot of persistence and patience. And
you can't give up. That's the thing we found is we we stay positive about it. We stay really excited about it, and we just they knock us down sometimes, and we get back up and we fight a little harder. And we just we're just always happy when we add 2 kids or 3 kids or 4 kids, and then we add more, and they bring a friend. And so we've seen a lot of programs over the past that haven't had sustainability because they try 1 year and maybe they don't have the best results, or they don't win a lot of games or whatever. Well, I think and so they quit. And I think they approached it a little bit from the opposite direction. We work at it as, wow, if we scored 12 points, that's great because these are kids who've never played before. If we scored 17 points, that's great because these kids are just learning and they're playing against adults or whatever. So we approach it with a positive, persistent attitude, and we've really grown. And I think that if we, obviously I think now we're up to 70-some players in our club, and maybe to a club out in California, 70-something doesn't sound, oh, that's all you have? But to us, that is a big victory. When we see a gym full of kids, boys playing volleyball in our area, that is a big step in the right direction for us. And next year we'll have 75, and then the next year we'll have 85 or whatever. And if we thought that, oh, geez, that's just not good enough, and we gave up, then we would fall into the trap that a lot of other clubs are falling into, that try to add boys and it's not as successful immediately, or it's not 1,000 kids immediately. I just think that's approaching it the wrong way. And we try to, no matter how many times we wish we could do something a little bit more, we're just always happy with little steps. And I think the little steps will lead into much more growth.
Before I lose, because we are after 8 and people are needing to go, I want to make sure that we get to say thank you, and as you can see how you can reach out to the Dallas-Fort Worth High Intensity Program website, as well as an email for, as Jeff Moser is up there. And then we want to say good luck, but we also want to let you know that if you need a CAP module, you can, your name will go into the CAP office and you can get it without having to attend another CAP session at a different time, because this has gone longer than a normal CAP module for sure. And so I'm going to leave this thank you up here so you guys can see their contacts. Got a couple things here. Rob noted C-Dig for Kids, of course, and Jeff, you mentioned that earlier, but Scott was wondering, what about offering a mini tour of national team practices prior to or during World League time period in various cities? And Jeff has done quite a bit on that already.
Yeah, all their practice sessions are open to the public. So, and that's only the U.S. teams. The teams they're playing have that option, and it just usually depends on how the match went the night before or the team themselves. There's some teams that don't. They want closed practices, but the U.S. practices at World League are all open. They start on Wednesday. If we do a Friday-Saturday match, Wednesday's the first practice, and you'll see an actual full-on regular national team practice on Wednesday. And then Thursday, the practice tends to just be a hit-around where they're just staying warm. But it's worth getting there because you're right down on court side and watching the guys, and then obviously you come back for the match on Friday and Saturday. So those are it's fun to go watch them. But yeah, you're right. That's something that's important to get the World League spread around so people can get to those and see what a practice looks like and have an opportunity to go watch those guys play.
And, the one thing I wanted to add here, Jeff, is, if anybody's got any more questions, feel free to call Jeff. He's been very, very generous with his time with me, and every time we talk, we end up talking for a couple hours. So he's got tons of resources, and it's very, helpful. So, if you've got any questions for him, feel free to email him, and feel free to jump on our website if you want to look at what we're doing, and email Randall and ask us any questions you have.
And just so you guys in Texas know, Coach Hickey asks, are there any players in the Fort Worth or west of Fort Worth area? I live in Aledo and run a girls team now, but have a few boys that are very interested. We just can't travel to Dallas. What are our options? Satellite program, partnership, help with more local facilities? Can someone reach out to me to discuss? And of course, that I'll pass that along to you guys.
Absolutely, yeah. There is a program out there we can help you get you in touch with. I think they're in Weatherford maybe, but we've been in touch with the lady who's starting a program this year. So email Randall at morris@dfwvolleyball.net, and we can get you all that info.
We also do have some carpooling if they really wanted to participate with us. We have a family that comes from Aledo, as a matter of fact, and but we have one of our coaches actually drives a carpool over from Fort Worth for those who want to play in our club. So yes, it may not seem as enticing for a parent to have to drive every week over to Dallas, but we do have carpools that we work out and stuff like that. So that's also an option.
And Robin notes that it's CTV starting in Weatherford also, and Panther City may be back in action this year under Kyle Kennedy for all you Texans. And Bill Hickey wants to know if that's the Smith family.
Yes, it is.
The answer is yes, it is.
Well, and I'll throw a carrot out to all the Texas programming. I met with the commissioner from the Heartland Conference, which is a Division II college conference in Texas, and they approached me and said we would like to add men's volleyball as a conference sport, which actually stopped my heart because that's 6 to 8 programs all at once. And we started talking about it for a couple of weeks, and finally he came back and he just had a meeting with all the athletic directors. He said their big question was, how many high school programs are there in Texas? So I hemmed and hawed and tried to stall my way out, and he couldn't quite do it. And, so when I told him, he said, well, we're not even interested until we have high schools playing in Texas. So that's a carrot that's out there, that there are some NCAA Division II schools that are interested in starting men's programs if we can give them a big enough pool of Texans to draw from, because they didn't want to go out of state. They wanted to recruit from in-state. So keep that in the back of your heads. Let's grow quick.
The only thing that's sort of a challenge from Floyd is this, the cost, and that the cost of club both for girls and boys is a little bit too high for a lot of kids who can't afford it. I think it also depends on what your facility cost really is. I know I get kind of almost stunned when I'm working on the Jiva side and New York City side, and the soccer people are willing to pay $135 an hour for a court, per hour. And that adds up to thousands of dollars just to be able to get on the court for a while. And we do have in the material in the youth volleyball how to create stations and cram more kids in those kind of small spaces or creative spaces as part of it. But I'm finding that the major cost tends to be the facility cost more than anything. It's certainly not USAV membership costs. That's like a drop in the bucket compared to what it costs to run a program.
Well, I think, Floyd, that might be somewhere where you look at your sports commission, if you have one in your area, is what we're hearing from them, saying, hey, we've got facilities that aren't being used right now, and we need to do some outreach in our local community. It may be an option. I don't know.
The one thing that comes to mind for me is, we have the luxury of having a lot of teams and being able to negotiate with facilities on a larger scale than most startups. But the one thing that comes to mind is a lot of these girls' clubs have a tremendous amount of resources in terms of leverage and how they negotiate with those contracts with the facilities. So if you've got the ability to talk to some girls clubs, you may be able to get in on whatever type of package they're trying to negotiate with that facility. That's just a starting place.
Well, and really, we have a philosophy that we don't ever want to lose a kid because they can't pay. Especially since we're just trying to grow boys volleyball, and we've set up some fundraising opportunities, and also we have some very generous families who have offered to give some scholarship funds and stuff like that, and we've worked out a lot of that kind of stuff, and we just always find a way to make sure everybody can play, because we never want it to be a no pay, no play situation, especially in boys volleyball. So we do whatever we can, and yeah, every once in a while we lose a kid because of cost, but we found that by offering a lot of fundraising and a lot of opportunities, if they will just take advantage of them, that's extremely helpful, and also certainly negotiating any kind of deals you can with facility. Or, if anybody has connections to a gym, maybe you can, if your coaches work there or something, maybe they can get a faculty discount, or just any way you can to cut costs, of course, is going to be more boys playing.
Probably last question here. Coach Hickey asks, what about nonprofit certification? Most schools won't allow, quote, for-profit programs to use the school gyms. And Jeff, you want to take that, or are you guys down in Texas?
we just started working with the ASBDC, which is the American Small Business Development Center, and they're going to partner with USA Volleyball to help clubs develop or give clubs resources, and every state and city usually has a chapter nearby, the SBDC, Small Business Development Center, that offers free classes on anything you can think of running a small company, small business, small corporation, how to set up your finances, how to set up a corporation, and granted, they mostly do for-profit services, but after talking with them last week, they're really excited about partnering with us, and they know that there are some clubs that are interested in going nonprofit, and they're willing to help put you in contact with that. And nonprofit can be a little scary at first when you see the size of the packet you have to fill out, but actually, if you get with somebody who's set up a nonprofit in the past, it's a fairly direct, easy process. Once you get into it, there's just a lot of paperwork, but there's organizations out there, and your SBDC should be able to put you in contact with a local organization that will help you develop a nonprofit status. And get your board set up and get your bylaws set up and have that business plan ready to go into the feds. And usually it gets kicked back once or twice for little details that you just got to tweak out and send it back in, and you'll get your nonprofit status. And that may help you out getting into the schools. Because certainly the schools don't want to be seen as someone who is promoting one for-profit business over another one, and they shy away from, hey, if volleyball does it, soccer is going to want to do it, and basketball is going to want to do it, and that's why I kind of promote it, offer them a service that free of charge, where you're not really going in and getting anything, and providing services to them, and in the long run, you will eventually be branding yourself with the kids that get involved in that program. So that's just one way that might work. But contact your SBDC on your nonprofit stuff.
Yeah, because they'll do it basically for nothing. I think the AAU will do it for like $400 or $500 or something. But those guys will. That's why we're working with them, because trying to save money, they're going to do it for basically for free. All right, I think that should close it out. Jeff, you want to close things out, and you guys down there in Dallas-Fort Worth, any closing remarks?
Just thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk a little bit about boys volleyball, and
yeah, I think it's fantastic. I mean, we got a good group that came in tonight, and again, contact me with any questions, any concerns. Let me know where you're growing programs. because we get contacted all the time, and when we know there's people growing in certain pockets, we want to put you in touch with the other people in that area because it's boys, and the guys want to be playing against other guys, and if we can get them playing and grow, 6, 7 teams at a time, that's what's going to make it work for us. So I appreciate everybody's time tonight, and hopefully sitting here at your computer, you probably didn't work off too much turkey. But,
Not enough.
All right.
That's right.
On behalf of USA Volleyball, thanks for helping us grow the game, and we will be, putting this up online here before the start of the year. But thanks to Dallas-Fort Worth High Intensity for all their help in getting this to happen, and everybody's saying thank you on the other end, and great podcast and best ever. So congratulations, and we'll be in touch. We'll be sharing everybody's email addresses, I think, with each other on this one because it's a nice little group that probably ought to share more ideas beyond this. So have a good evening.
Yeah, thanks, High Intensity.
Perfect. You too. Bye-bye. Thank you.